One in every 5 homes in Silicon Valley was built after 2000. Some goes as far back as 70 to 80 years, the 1940s or the 1950s. We're going to delve in a very crucial but often overlooked component of real estate: sewage laterals. When buying a home, you do a home inspection and roof inspection, but have you ever wondered if anybody's taken a look at what lies beneath? Here's a shocking statistic for you. It could be as many as 60 to 70% of sewage pipes that will not pass inspection. Today, we're going to interview Travis Paulson. He's been in the business of doing inspections for homes and have done hundreds of sewage pipes inspections, and he'll tell us all about the shit that lies beneath us. Travis, thanks for coming on the show. I really appreciate you for coming on.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you so much for having me. And I appreciate coming and talking about sewer lateral inspections. It is definitely a topic near and dear to my heart. As we at HomeGuard, we just started this adventure into dealing with these pipes and all the crap that goes along with it, right? And there is a lot of stuff that goes along with it. And the biggest question I often get asked is, what is a sewer lateral, right? What is a sewer lateral? And it's one of those things that's out of sight, out of mind. We don't really know about it. We don't care about it. It's just this thing until, again, like you said, the shit literally starts coming out of your lung when, you see that, you smell it, and you're like, oh my gosh, I got a problem, right? Now, We can fix that. We can deal with it, yes, but what are some ways we can kind of prevent this from occurring? We don't want this to happen. Well, we can do an inspection, right? And that's important, is to have that inspection. You can get it inspected as part of a real estate transaction, or if you're just a homeowner and you're interested in knowing, you might want to have that inspection done. And so I'm going to give you some information to kind of give you some ideas of why you should inspect it, why it's important to inspect it, who should inspect it. I'm going to go over all that information, but first let's start off with, what is it? Right? Let's get you down to knowing exactly what is this sewer lateral. Because if you're informed and you understand, it makes it easier to come up with these decisions. Right?
Travis, you mind telling us a little bit more about the company you work with and what else do you guys do?
Yeah, absolutely. So I work for HomeGuard Incorporated. I'm the vice president of operations there. I've been an inspector myself over 10 years, second generation. My father was an inspector and also a carpenter contractor. So I've been in the business for a long time. And HomeGuard, we do real estate inspections as part of that sale of that home, right? If you're buying a home or you're selling a home, you typically hire inspectors to come in to take a look at the property, to do home inspections, termite inspections, as well as roof. Those are kind of the 3 major inspections. And now there's this sewer lateral, normally done by plumbers. But now the inspection companies are starting to catch on and starting to do this as part of an inspection service, because it's now been tied to the real estate transaction as well, with these point of sale requirements that are starting to get passed by the cities. So, like I was saying, what is the sewer lateral? You want to have a good understanding of what it is. So the sewer lateral is a pipe that's completely underground. And oftentimes I get asked, does this pipe start under my house? Is it under my house? Is it part of the plumbing there? Well, no, it's not actually. The plumbing that's under your house, that's your house's plumbing. That's the home, the drain waste vent system. The sewer lateral actually starts on the outside of the house. It's on the other side of that foundation. So yes, your pipes under your house do connect to the sewer lateral. Everything drains into there, but then the actual lateral is starting on the outside. And this sewer lateral runs all the way until we hit the city sewer lines, right? So the city sewer lines, they're going to be in the street. Typically, they're in the street in most cases. And so usually that sewer lateral is running out the front of your home, right? I'd say about 95% of cases, the sewer lateral is going out the front of the home. And it is underground. Now this sewer lateral, it is a 3 to 4 inch pipe. It's usually made of clay, plastic, or cast iron. Those are the most common materials that we see. There are a few other materials that are a little more rare, like concrete, or this great material, I'm being sarcastic here, called Orangeburg. Orangeburg is basically a pipe made out of tar and paper. I mean, it was a horrible design, and it was started being used in the 70s because cast iron was expensive. So they started to use this, and guess what? If you have that, you do not have a sewer lateral anymore. This material is not good, right? So those are the types of things that the pipe's
Why is
made
it
out
not
of.
good? Does it erode?
It's like paper mache. Have you ever played with paper mache? It
Right.
is literally a pipe that is just paper mache together, but using tar instead of a flour and water like we use for paper mache. But so
Oh, that
basically it's
sucks.
tar, and yeah, it's if it was installed, it's gone right at this point. It doesn't exist anymore. It's
Wow.
totally eroded away and gone. And there are some neighborhoods in Silicon Valley that are made of this, right? There are neighborhoods that are made of this material. So this is why it's important to have our sewer lateral inspected. You want to know what you have because it's underground. You can't tell unless you see it, right? So
Right.
that's why we inspect this sewer lateral and check it out. Now, here's another thing. Some important terms here. There's two really important words that I want you to understand, especially as a homeowner. If you're buying a house and you're going to own this house, you need to understand what you're responsible for, right? As what part of that sewer lateral am I responsible for? Because depending on where you live, you may be responsible for the entire sewer lateral, including what's under the city's property and what's on your property, or you may be only responsible for what's on your property. So the two key terms that kind of differentiate this is we can take our sewer lateral and break it up into two sections. We have a lower lateral and we have an upper lateral. That upper lateral is the portion that's on your property, the homeowner's property. Once we go
Right.
across our property line and into the city property, we're now into the lower lateral. That lower lateral, is completely in the city's property there. It's under the sidewalk, under the street, right? That's what's there. Now, depending on what city you live in, like I said, you may be responsible for the entire thing or just a portion. So how do we find this out? Real easy way, go to our city's website. Just go bring up Google, look up City of San Jose, go to the utilities department. Usually it's under sewer or drain. Click there. It'll tell you, it'll say the homeowner is responsible for, it'll say upper lateral, lower lateral, and upper lateral, or the entire thing. Now, if we live in Morgan Hill, guess what? We're responsible for the entire lateral. This includes what's on your property and what's in the street. If we live in San Mateo, it's the same thing, the entire lateral. A lot of the peninsula cities, you are responsible for the entire lateral. Now, if we're in San Jose, we're only responsible for what's on our property. And the reason why I bring that up is important because if we have to fix something in the lower lateral, that's going to be a little more costly than having to fix only what's on our property. Because if it's in the lower lateral, there's a really good chance it's under the street or it's under the
Right.
sidewalk. So this is why it's very important to understand what the lower lateral and what the upper lateral is and who is responsible for what. So I always
Oh,
encourage everybody to look into that.
what's the height difference between the upper lateral to the lower lateral? Is there like a ballpark?
Right. So the depth at which the lateral sits underground, starting at at your house where the clean out access point is, you're usually about a foot to 2 feet underground.
Okay.
Usually
That's
not
to
more
the
than that.
This to the upper lateral or to the lower lateral?
This is the upper lateral. So this is the
Okay.
start of the lateral, right where the foundation is. We're
Got it.
there at the top. That's about 2 feet. Then that pipe is going to start to slope downward, right? To where the
Right.
city sewer is in the street. Now, starts at about 2 feet. I've seen it be as deep as 6 to 8 feet in the street.
Holy crap.
Right. Now, and then, if we imagine a nice slope going down there, maybe at the curb or at your property line, you're probably
Right.
about 4 feet at the property line deep.
Oh,
On
wow.
average, I would say about 3 to 4 feet deep. Okay. Now, the city sewer, kind of like what we expect, 5 to 6 feet in the street. But like I said, I've seen as much as 8 to 10 feet deep in the street. So you start to have to dig pretty far when you start getting out there into the street, and that city portion there tends to be more expensive to fix with and to work with. So, like I said, that's why it's important to find out what you're responsible for. And if you're going to buy a house in an area, do that research. Look at this type of information. I'm buying a house in Morgan Hill. I'm going to be responsible for my entire sewer lateral, including what's underneath the city street, the city property. Or if I'm buying a house in San Jose, well, San Jose, I only have to worry about what's on my property. I don't have to worry about what's in the street. So those are factors to consider when looking at it, just like age, right? So that's the sewer lateral. So now we kind of have some information on what is a sewer lateral, right? Now, what is a sewer cleanout? Because a cleanout is how we gain access to the sewer, right? That's why we have to have a sewer cleanout. And that's what the inspector is going to use to do his inspection. And the sewer cleanout is usually, it's going to be within 5 feet of our property, so our structure. It has to be within 5 feet there. And that's what we call the building cleanout. That's where we are going to enter and put our camera and push all the way out to the city main. And this is important. We have to have one of these. The cities do require, it's code, to have 2 of these. There needs to be one by the house and one by the property line. That's usually where the second one is. And that we call that our street clean out or our city clean out, okay? And these are, 3-4 inch pipes. They're coming out of the ground. They sometimes have a nice fancy box around them with a cap on it that's labeled sewer. You can usually find them in the front of your house because that's usually where our sewer line is going. And, if your house was built in the 70s or later, you're going to have one of these somewhere that was installed because it kind of became normal practice to install them in the 70s onward. Now, if your house was built in the 1960s or earlier, well, you may not have one of these because it was not standard to install them. So if you didn't have one, well, how could we inspect? How can we gain access? We do have the capability. We can remove a toilet. If we remove the toilet, that gives us a 3-inch pipe that allows us to do the inspection from. Okay, we need a 3-inch pipe. If it's a smaller pipe, like a little 2-inch clean out at a wall, we can't use it. It's too small. The camera will not fit in there very well for doing the inspection. So as part of the 1960s thing, this is a key thing to remember. 1960s and earlier, it's a good date for buying an old home. And that's because, again, we don't have the clean out, but guess what? We also have old sewer laterals. Our sewer laterals in the 1960s were usually made out of clay or cast iron, right? Now, this kind of segues into why is it important to inspect a sewer lateral? Well, if we are buying this 1960 home and it's got clay or cast iron, I can almost guarantee you there's going to be problems with it. Unless the homeowner at some point replaced their sewer lateral. Maybe the previous homeowner replaced it. They can provide documentation showing you that it was done. There's permits on file with the city, things like that. Then okay, it's been replaced. But in a lot of cases, it hasn't been replaced. Most cases that I encounter from my inspections, they haven't done the work on it yet, right? Because usually people don't go and do that work until they have a really big problem. Like, things are backing up in the home. So, 1960s home, we're using clay pipe. So what's wrong with clay? Why is clay such an issue? Well, because clay is brittle, right? It breaks it very easily. It doesn't take a lot of movement to break clay. So one thing we have in Silicon Valley is lots of movement in our ground.
What was the lifetime for it to be? Was it meant to be? How long?
Well, that's a great question. And you know what? I get asked that all the time. When it comes to clay pipe, well, clay pipe, hey, you know what? It'll last underground for 10,000 years, right? I mean, we find clay pottery from ancient civilizations. So
that's true.
Clay is not gonna wear away or degrade. The problem with the clay is, like I said, it's brittle. It cracks. It doesn't move. It doesn't bend. It doesn't flex. So that's kind of the issue with clay. So there isn't really a lifespan on clay. It's more of, hey, has there been lots of movement breaking your pipe or not? And then cast iron, which was used in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, that does have a shelf life. Absolutely has a shelf life. Cast iron. Now, the other thing to worry about, we got cast iron, which corrodes and fails and clogs up. We got clay pipe that breaks from movement. Then we have this other thing. We do, the Silicon Valley, the Bay Area here, it's beautiful. It's gorgeous when you come around the neighborhoods because there's trees everywhere, right? The trees are all over the place. They're beautiful. We love them. But guess
The
what?
roots.
Those trees just cause so much damage to the pipes, right? The root system of the trees. So what's the job of roots? Their job is to find a source of water. And that pipe that's underground going out the front of your house has water in it all the time. Every time you flush a toilet, every time you turn on your faucets, water is going through there. So the trees, if they can sense the water, guess what? The roots are going to go straight for your pipe because it senses the water. Now, the only way it's going to sense that water is if there's a break in the pipe. There's some kind of disconnection, break, offset joint. There's a structural defect in the pipe. If there's a structural defect, the roots will find it, the roots will get in, and they're going to create more damage. They're going to ball up inside there, form into a little ball, and then that's what's going to cause that blockage that backs up your sewer. So
what kind of material is used these days in order to circumvent all these problems?
Great question. It's plastic. That's what we're using now. We're using
ABS
plastic piping. PVC or ABS, correct. Now, it depends. In most cases, you're going to see PVC being used, right? That's kind of the most common material. So PVC is 90s onward is kind of when we started using plastic, is starting in the 90s, right? And now it's the only thing that's really installed is plastic. You're never going to find anything else being installed, okay?
Yes.
And plastic it's a great material, works very well. It can flex, it can bend without breaking or cracking. That's kind of what's nice about it. So when the ground moves, it goes up and down. It doesn't crack, doesn't break. Okay?
Right.
So let's say we're buying a house and we're getting a house built in 1955. Homeowner hasn't done any sort of upgrades to that home. So the real estate agent suggests, hey, you know what? You should check your sewer lateral. Let's have that checked. It's probably old. There's trees in the front yard. It's probably got clay pipe. Let's get it checked before you buy the house because we want to make sure you got peace of mind and if you have any future expenses there, for that house if you buy it, right? Especially ones that are rather costly and sewer lateral replacement can be costly. I mean, you can look at up to $10,000 or more to replace a sewer lateral. So we get it checked. Now, who do we have inspected? That's always one thing I get asked is, who should inspect this sewer lateral for me? Who should I hire? Well, you most certainly could hire a plumber. A lot of plumbers know what they're doing. If they work on sewer laterals, they can inspect the sewer lateral. They could tell you if there's issues. But there's also another organization out there known as NASCO, the National Association of Sewer Service Companies. They are kind of the golden standard worldwide on how to inspect and report on pipelines. And that includes sewer laterals, storm drains, manholes, any sort of major pipeline or pipe infrastructure. NASCO has codified and created a system of inspecting and reporting. Now, HomeGuard, we follow this system. And we use this system for our inspections. And we started to do that because we found that a lot of the cities that have a ordinance in place saying we have to inspect the sewer lateral have required that the people doing the inspections get certified through NASCO. Because any government that does any sort of pipeline work, or when they want people to come inspect their pipelines that are in the street, who do they use? They use NASCO certified inspectors. They don't use just your local plumber. They use NASCO certified inspectors. So that's why it's important that you hire somebody who really knows how to inspect and report on your sewer lateral, right? Yeah, it's one thing to know how to fix it, but it's another thing to necessarily be able to inspect it, right? So, and write a report, good report that informs you what's going on. Now, let's talk about the fact that we have to inspect it in some places, right? Yes. There are some cities that make us have to do this inspection, and that would be the sewer lateral certificate. What is the sewer lateral certificate? This is the big thing that I get asked all the time, right? So the cities, they've created this ordinance. They want the sewer to be certified as being in good condition. That's the whole point. And they they've created this ordinance because they know through inspections of their own systems that there are, the infrastructure is old and there's lots of broken, damaged pipes out there. And the city doesn't have the money to fix everybody's sewer lateral. They are trying to fix all their own pipes. So they said, hey, you know what? We'll pass an ordinance that makes the homeowner have to do it when they go to sell the home. And so some of these cities have jumped online. They started doing it. They're passing the buck on to the homeowner, making them do it. And it's a headache, I know, but we have to deal with it. So, if you live in one of those cities, you're going to have to get it done. So the thing to do is you hire a home guard. We come out, we do that inspection, we tell you what's going on. And in a lot of cases, you're going to have to fix it. Unfortunately, the city wants it fixed in order to get that certificate, right?
The map that you're showing is mostly in Alameda County, or does it also flow into Contra Costa as well, or is it just Alameda?
Alameda County, there is not much going on in Contra Costa County in terms of sewer lateral ordinances. It's mostly Alameda County. Then you get up into North Bay, up in Sonoma, Petaluma area, Tiburon, Marin County, that area. Yes, there's a lot of sewer lateral ordinances there. And then on the peninsula in San Mateo County, there's a lot of cities that have ordinances as well. The reason I show East Bay Mud here and Alameda County is because they have some of the strictest requirements, some of the most stringent requirements, right? And it's because not only do they want you to inspect it and repair it, they want that sewer lateral to pass a pressure test. So in order to close escrow and get the sewer lateral certificate from the city, you have to have a pressure test done on the sewer pipe. The pressure test, if there's even small problems with the pipe, it won't pass a pressure test. That's kind of the issue. If we go into San Mateo, we can have some problems with our sewer lateral pipe, and it'll pass. They'll be okay with it. They'll give you a certificate. You don't have to fix it. But over in Oakland and Berkeley and stuff like that, man, you could have such a small little issue. It will not pass the pressure test, and now you got to fix it, right? And it's just a headache. So that's why I always bring them up, is because they're kind of the strictest. And so that sewer lateral certificate, it's a thing indefinitely in certain areas. Now, I get asked all the time, well, what areas, what cities have this ordinance? Well, I spent the time and the effort, and I put together this spreadsheet listing all the cities in the Bay Area. And I tell you right there if it's required or not. All you got to do is look for the city. Let's look down the list. Okay, there's Brisbane. Does Brisbane have a requirement? Yes, it does. It says yes. So right now you got a requirement. Now, with Brisbane, though, the requirement is only if you do remodels or renovations. It's not a point of sale. But then Burlingame, right underneath there, it is a point of sale requirement. It's marked as yes. So this spreadsheet is available. It's on HomeGuard's website. If you go to HomeGuard's website and you look under resources, you click resources, you'll find this spreadsheet on there. You can download a PDF version and have a copy for your own records. And I encourage definitely all real estate agents to have this. This is what I've been talking up at all the different real estate meetings and offices. It's a great resource to really kind of give you an idea. But of course, it doesn't replace getting the actual education on each city. So use this as a reference. Look at here. If you see it has a requirement, then go to the city's website and read all the details on it. Okay. So
I'm pretty sure you for a sewage lateral inspection, there will be different price and cost to it. But I won't hold you to this. But what would be the ballpark for ordering such an inspection?
So our cost for the inspection is $295. That's the cost of the inspection, and it's a set price. There is no difference in cost. It's just $295. Now, prices do go up over time. So in a couple of years, maybe it's not $295, but right now it's $295. Okay. Then if we're going to do the inspection, what do we need to do to prepare for that inspection, right? I get asked this all the time. Is there anything we need to do? How do we prepare for it? Well, it's very simple. We just need to gain access to around the perimeter of the home. We don't even need to go inside the house. Like, the only time we would go in the house is if you don't have a clean out on the outside of the home and we got to remove that toilet, okay? Then we may need to come inside the house. But otherwise, we don't need to be in the house. We just go to the front yard, we find the clean out, we insert the camera there, we do our inspection, we're done. Inspection takes 30 to 40 minutes. It's about double that in terms of paperwork, which the inspector does later on in his vehicle after he's done. So, the paperwork gets all done and then we submit it and you get a report. So it's not a whole lot. You need to be at the inspection. You don't need to be. We can come and just do it whenever you want us to. Although we do encourage that if you're going to order the inspection, be at the inspection to talk to the inspector. It's definitely encouraged because the inspector will go over his findings with you. He'll talk you through it and show you what he found. He'll actually show you on his iPad with pictures and video what happened and what he found and what his recommendation is. So it's definitely nice to be able to talk to that inspector.
How long does a test usually take? The inspection usually take?
30 to 40 minutes.
Oh, okay. Well, that's cool.
Yeah, it's a quick one. It's definitely much quicker than the termite or the home inspection. Those tend to take longer. But this one's quicker. And one great thing about HomeGuard, if you're getting all the inspections done because you're selling a home or something, we're the kind of a one-stop shop. So you can call us and order all the inspections at the same time, and we can even all come out at the same time. So you only have to meet all the inspectors one time, right?
Just
so one time instead of 3 different trips to the house for 3 different inspections, right? So that's kind of the nice thing about it too, is it's kind of a one-stop shop thing. So we do the inspection, we get you a report. What's in the report? Well, I went over a lot of stuff already. You're going to get a video. That video is going to be in the report. So you do get a full video of this inspection. It's the only inspection that's fully recorded. So there's transparency there. You know what's going on. You get to see what's going on in your sewer lateral. I know it's not the greatest thing to look at. It's not the funnest video to watch in the world, but it's there.
Try not to look at it before dinner, before
right, exactly. Yeah. Make sure you're prepared for that because you may see some stuff. All right. So, you're going to get that video. You're going to get definitely a detailed report. You can see in the slides you see actual examples of what our report looks like. You get a log of all the findings, everything that was discovered. You get a full description of the pipe. We detail out the scope of the inspection, that description that includes how long the pipe is, how deep the pipe is, what type of material. We give you all that information so you are informed and you know what's going on with your sewer lateral pipe.
Thank you so much, Travis. I really appreciate it. It's really good information. So are there any parting notes that you want to share with us?
Yeah, so like you said, it's something you definitely want to know about and kind of pay. The $295 is pennies to understanding and knowing what's going on, right? And just some fun statistics on you. About this. I ran the numbers myself. Out of 800 inspections done, 65% of the pipes failed. So the
Holy crap.
Right, the majority of the pipes that we inspect have failed. And this is, again, according to that NASCO standard. So it's not like I'm just failing pipes because I want to make money. We don't make our money off of the work. We make our money off doing the inspections, right? That's we're in the business of inspecting, not repairing. So that's kind of the thing. I ran those numbers and it's not good. That's why the cities are requiring these to be done. Exactly. So and it's mostly with the old houses. So, if you're buying an old house, and how often, I ask this all the time when I'm presenting live with a lot of real estate agents, I ask, hey, how many of you have had your sewer lateral inspected that own a home? I maybe get one hand in the audience of 100 people that goes up. Right. So most people don't do this. And I encourage people to do it. Just do it so you don't get caught off guard.
Thank you so much, Travis. I really appreciate
you're
having the information. So guys, if you want to reach out to Travis, his information will be in the description at the bottom. Phone number, email, just contact us. Thanks for watching.